start any minute. Good body every morning. How is everyone today? My name is
Fantastic.
Brian Bacchus. And
I'm
we
Jamal
have a
Smith.
special guest today. So you know what that means. That means me and Jamal is going to jump right on off and like we're doing right now.
Dumb. Just dumb. See, JoAnn, what I told you, these shenanigans. And remember Kendra was saying Saturday at the grand opening, like these three right here.
Yeah.
This is the wackiest, fun, loving show there. And as Brian was saying, he'll probably jump back on to say this, the longest running podcast that exclusively talks about Altadena. Because we're the only
Glad you're here.
You know what? Don't start that, Brian. He knows I hate that when he does good. And I'll be like, oh my gosh. But anyway, we are, hey Tristana, welcome. We are so happy to have JoAnn Harris, she goes by Jojo, who is an energy specialist with us this morning. We met on Saturday at the grand opening. I met her and Brian and Jamal did on Saturday at the grand opening of Kendra's design studio and warehouse. And it was a pleasure meeting you then. And both her and Tristana, who is the realtor who is saying, let's go, Jojo. I told them both, I was like, when you coming on my show?
Right.
When are you coming on the Toni Talk segment of the Altadena Talk show? And I gave them choices. I said, who's coming on Tuesday? And Jojo was like, I will. And Tristana's going to come on next Tuesday. So super glad you're here with us today to talk about all things efficiency when it comes to rebuilding and solar and everything that you do. So if you can take a minute, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and what you do. And then we're going to jump into this wonderful discussion that we're going to have this morning.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Toni just introduced me. My name is JoAnn Harris. I am an energy specialist and advocate. I didn't put that part, but sometimes I do have to fight for my clients. But I support residential and commercial customers in evaluating energy efficiency, seeing if solar will help them, but it's not always all about solar. Sometimes they need to upgrade lighting, windows. It just really depends. But I help them to navigate that world because it is a lot when you're looking at cutting costs and trying to figure out how and where and who to trust. So I come right in and kind of hold their hand, I guess you could say, and walk them to success, make sure they understand what they're getting, answer their questions. I also do educational sessions. Some of the churches I support, many of their members have questions about solar. And so I'll come in and do a workshop and just do general education and answer their questions, etc. So that's me.
Good. Now, I'm going to just do a quick correction for us.
Sure.
You are looking like this. So you may need to move perfect right there. You may need to move your camera a little because I want everybody to see you fully as you are speaking and educating us on solar.
Absolutely, dear.
Okay, so you're still looking, now you're looking straight ahead, but where's your camera that you're looking at when you're talking?
It's above my screen.
No, okay, that's perfect then. Yeah, if you were right there, then you're looking at us instead of looking to the left or the right. I know I have a gang of monitors, so I tend to do that, but I just want to make sure like you're right here. Okay, so thank you for that, and excuse us, everyone. I just want to make sure that everybody sees and really hears well from JoJo as she's doing this.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna be looking like this, and no one's over there. You know, everyone's over here.
My goodness!
Able to move. What's over to that you keep looking to the side? Is that your laptop?
Yeah, well, what it is I'm trying to look at you because I'm one of those people that like to look at who I'm talking to.
Yeah, but can you move that where you're looking at me in front of you? So it's underneath where your camera is? Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. We just want to make sure people are seeing you, right?
Yeah.
So one of the important things I think that you and I discussed and that you're going to talk about today is the benefits of solar to people and the rebuilds and how you can help people and those that don't even need to rebuild. Their houses weren't affected by the fires like so many Altadenians were, and what it is. And then I'll talk a little bit about my experience with solar, which I got like a year and a half ago, and I mentioned to you. And then about a new executive order from our governor yesterday that has to do with solar and the rebuilds. So you were mentioning you wanted to open up talking about Title, is it 24?
Title 24, yeah.
Can you explain what Title 24 is to everyone?
Absolutely. So Title 24 is a California building code that just mandates that we add solar panels. Batteries are not actually required with Title 24, but it's recommended. And then it also addresses other energy efficiency options like the windows, the heating and electric. All of that is kind of covered under that. California has basically green energy goals because of the fact that we have so many residents. California is a high demand area. So I think you even, when we were first talking, when we met, you were explaining the fact that, there's peak times where everybody is using their power, and it puts a lot of stress on the electrical grid, which the electrical grid is over 100 years old. So what ends up happening is power outages, risk. There's risk for fire when that old grid is under a lot of stress. Circuits combust and things like that. And so they do have a requirement for all new builds to actually incorporate at the minimum solar readiness, but typically a minimum size system, which in my experience with working with new builds, has been anywhere from 2 to 5 kilowatts. So it's not huge.
That's small.
Yeah, it's not necessarily even really meant to like save the homeowner thousands. It's meant to cut the cost just a little bit and offset the expense of the electricity for that property. So,
and if someone were working with you and said, I want a 5 kilowatt system, right? On average, what would that cost? And I know that things change, right? Because, and let's talk about with a battery and without a battery, because there's inverters, there's the track, there's each panel, there's all the equipment that once the tracks are up, the panels are up, the inverters that, you have to have on the side, you've got to get the permit for it. And I am only talking from experience because I did this, it'll be 2 years in December that I've had my solar. And I did, I had to, sign off on the plan, the sketch, the drawings. I've done a couple other things, and I've done owner builder permit because I'm going to do that. And I'm trying to build it myself or have somebody else where I'm not paying as much when I have to hire someone. Right. But what would an average size? I think mine is 7.5 kilowatts or something like that. But average number of panels or average cost right now currently for a 5 kilowatt system, what would that run without a battery and then with?
So that depends. That's not a general question, meaning if you're doing it cash, of course you're going to get true cost, which is I think what you're asking. If you need financing, then you are going to have fees and interest and things like that. But if you're doing it cash, and if you're doing like a standard panel, nothing too fancy, which right now the standard panels are anywhere from 380 kilowatts to 400 kilowatts. So just panels, no battery, anywhere from 12, 13, all the way up to 15K.
Okay. I know I did 14 panels, 500 kilowatt or wattage hours or whatever each. And inverters, track, all that. I paid $14,000, but I paid cash. Because I didn't want to finance. Number one, I don't want fees. Number two, the panels are guaranteed for 25 years and I clean them, regularly. But when you finance, if you sell your house during that process, the homeowner, the new seller, has to agree to take that on.
Yeah, they either have to incorporate it in the purchase of the home or agree to take it on, which actually, real quickly, that's kind of an area where people don't know what to do. And a lot of real estate agents will tell their buyer or their seller, oh, no, it needs to be incorporated into the loan. A lot of times it's actually not the best thing to do because you're adding interest, compounded interest onto that total. So if you really think about it, when you move into a new home, you have to pay the utility bill anyway. So you have to pay a power bill. So it's important to put your mind in that frame or that perspective that this is my energy bill. And that's we recommend just taking it over instead of adding it to the debt of the overall home, unless you just have that kind of cash laying around.
Yeah, and even taking it over, that's a monthly payment, right?
Yeah,
so like some people won't buy it in an area that's a nice planned community because there's an HOA. A HOA may charge you $200, $400, $600 a month on top of your mortgage, which to me is insanity, right?
Right.
And that would be basically like that. Like, okay, here's my mortgage I'm paying, but I'm buying this house with panels. I didn't incorporate it into the purchase price because it has its own separate loan and I have to take it over. So with everybody that was affected by the fires whose homes were burned down, if they are going to rebuild, or those that choose to stay and rebuild, and they get solar, that's fabulous. And as long as their insurance company pays for that, which are part of the upgrades that most insurance companies are like, yes, we're going to cover the upgrades because these are the new building codes. Yeah, that's great. There is that caveat, though, on that new executive order from Governor Newsom yesterday, which now says people no longer have to get the solar panels. He suspended that and a bunch of other building codes that would take effect January 1 of 2026. So that there are, I know, talking to Kendra, her clients are about 50-50. Yeah. Like, I want solar and I don't, or I can't really afford it. Is that going to prevent me from rebuilding since they say that I have to have it? So now, obviously, they don't have to. It may help people in those costs. But if I could just say something, and I'm not an energy specialist like you are, I just know from my past year and a half experience with just 14 panels, and I keep saying I'm going to get at least 6 more and a battery. When I bought my house, October would be 5 years. I didn't have panels. My bills were $400 a month. Just ridiculous for panels. My house is not huge, right? But big enough that I, because peak hours now, and they put everybody on this term of use mess. And so peak hours are from 4 to 9 p.m. That's when everybody's home. Exactly. So now, instead of 23 cents a kilowatt hour from 9 p.m. to 4 p.m., because that's what it is 63 cents from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And people a lot of times don't know. They don't realize all these, when you look at your bill, it's all these extra charges like, oh, from here to here, we charge you this much. And then here to here, we charge you. I look at my bills every month with a fine tooth comb because I used to work for the phone company. And I know they put extra charges on there that people didn't have a clue about, right? Under fees. Yeah. So what is your recommendation to people that are rebuilding in how you could help them with adding solar? Because if Edison's going to pay out billions, they're going to recoup it at some point.
They sure are. And they actually just got approved to recoup the cost of the 2017 fires. So we're behind when it comes to their fee recuperation. They add a ton of extra fees, and a lot of people don't actually realize that you get charged for the energy being brought to your home and distributed through your home. And so that's where, if you look on page 2 on that little side part, those delivery charges usually are anywhere from 45 to 50% of your bill, because you have to pay for the transportation of that energy. And a lot of people don't realize a lot of our energy comes from, we source energy from out of state. It's getting better because of the renewable energy codes in California. So now we have solar farms that are a little bit closer. But the further that energy is that they're delivering to your home, the more you're going to pay for that transportation. And then this part, Toni, is not fair, but it's a fact. You lose energy through the power lines. The power lines, like I said, they're 100 years old. So you pay for 100% of what's on your statement, but by the time it gets to your home, you get about 60% of that power. So there's just so many different layers of unfairness when it comes to
it. It is ridiculous.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous.
Solar puts you back in control.
And you know what? When solar, I would even tell people, just with my experience, and I said, I'll probably work with you in a few months or whatever, to number one, get a battery. If you can afford 2 batteries, get 2, depending on the size of your house. But even with my house at just under 1,500, I want 2 because I also have an electric vehicle. And so, and right right now with my vehicle, it's not the one. You hear about it happening that they do dual, right? Where you can plug it in to get it all the way to 80 or 100% your charge. But if your power goes out, you can plug it in and power your house. They keep talking about it, but the cars aren't doing it yet.
No.
So they're not, which would drain the car battery, but fuel your house. So if you get two, depending on the size of your house, you can act as if your power is not off at all, because you're going to switch off the grid onto your batteries, which have gotten and stored energy all day, and then turn off of the grid. That's 63 cents per kilowatt.
Yep.
Between 4 and 9 p.m. And the more panels you have, the more energy you're getting, and you're giving back to the grid. And I think it's important that people know, get more instead of less, because we no longer get 100%. Edison is stealing, that's what I always say, 75%. It used to be that solar power people, the owners of solar power or renters, leasers or whatever, you have these panels, they would pay you out 100% for the electricity. Well, in April of 23, that changed. And now you only get credit for 25% of what you've given them. So they are literally stealing 75% from you. So where my bill was $400, now it's $200 a month. And since I have my panels, my first bill at under $200 came this past month. I think it was $198 or $199. But I was like, yay, right? That's still relatively high, but compared to $400, I'm happy. But if I get more panels and a battery, then at 4 p.m., I switch off of the grid altogether, and I'm powering my house, whether it's for a laptop, a TV, whatever, cooking, all off of that battery. So, and I know we started talking about two things, but again, tell people what would be best when they rebuild, or your opinion of that.
So I of course, I'm a solar advocate. So I always encourage people, take back your energy freedom for yourself. But what people need to realize, yes, it is an added cost in construction initially. But when you're looking at locking in at 20 cents, 18 cents, 22 cents per kilowatt, as opposed to 63 cents, that's a huge difference. And whatever it costs right now, especially if you go cash, a lot of people have the capital to rebuild, and they can pull some of that to actually just pay the panels off cash, which would be my recommendation. You're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of that home, especially if it's like a legacy property where you're going to pass that on to your children. Not only are you giving them a paid off home, but you're giving them energy freedom, meaning they're not burdened by the power company. So I recommend you talk to a specialist, someone that you trust, someone that's willing to answer questions. Those two things are very, very important. Purchasing or choosing the right consultant is almost as important as, buying the right car or buying the right home. If you don't jive with that person, then you're not going to feel comfortable getting all of those questions answered. Knowledge is so important. It's important to get informed, get the fundamental basic understanding of how solar works, how it could benefit you. For Altadena specifically, and Toni, you're so knowledgeable, you probably know this, but it's a high fire zone, obviously. And so what solar does is it makes each and every home more resilient when it comes to those summer days where everybody comes home from work and turns on their air, and that grid is under stress. The power company has a decision to make, whether they do public safety shutoffs or whether they keep that power on. Now, when you have solar plus storage, you don't even know. If it's done right, it just kicks right in, and your neighbors will call you, oh, is your power off? And you're like, oh, girl, no, I didn't even know. My battery kicked in. Did you want to come over and enjoy my air? And
what's so funny about that? I don't even have a battery, but the lines store a little bit of electricity.
They do.
So for a good hour or something. So now last year, I do not remember at all any of the rolling blackouts this past summer. And I think it's because there's 2 million solar power owners in California, right? Yeah. Obviously a lot in Altadena, they're no longer there, but so many are giving to the grid. Yeah. But I do know a couple times that either like my community Facebook page or some of my neighbors didn't have power, and I did, but I don't have a battery. But like I said, the lines store it for about an hour anyway. So
Right.
so neighbors were out. I still had a good hour. It had come back on for everybody or whatever. But with a battery, yes, you switch off the grid altogether and you use what your panels have filled that battery up with all day.
Yeah.
And so you're not at 63 cents a kilowatt during that peak 4 to 9 p.m. You're at zero because you are off the grid altogether. You are powering your own house. That's why I want to get a battery and at least at least 6 more panels to have 20. Because I do believe with 20, I'll be good and I'll see a significant drop in my bill. But it's super important to be greener and do better for our environment.
Right. It's important to control your dollar too, meaning that's where I feel like electricity is an area where people think they just are forced. They just have to do what they have to do. They got to pick Edison or they got to pick SDG&E. No, you don't, love. You actually have a choice. You can get, and I even have programs that don't, because there's a lot of people that say, well, Jojo, I want solar, but my credit's not good. I got programs that don't require credit. It has nothing to do with that. So the bottom line is solar gives you control. It helps you live better. It cuts costs, but it also adds resiliency to the grid and your neighborhood. So how you were saying your power didn't go off for about an hour, it's probably you and your neighbors with solar that have that grid around you kind of filled up where it doesn't just immediately shut off. Now, that's important. That improves the life of the overall neighborhood. It adds value to your home depending on what angle you take. Yeah. Not only is it cutting costs, but it's increasing the worth of your asset, of your home. So it's kind of like you have to look at it that way.
And you know what? Yeah. You think about when we talk about our neighbors, right? And the climate of the world right now and all the rhetoric and the foolishness. But I can tell you what, I'm a good neighbor to all my neighbors. And most of my neighbors, we have really good relationship. And if I were the only one on the block that had power, and somebody next door has a baby or an emergency or has a breathing machine or something like that, I'd be like, you better come to my house. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like in a heartbeat. Right. Yeah. Come over. I'm good. I have power. Right. So that's important too, because like you said, improving the overall friendliness of your neighborhood or your neighborhood camaraderie or whatever, and being good neighbors, those that have solar may be able to help out with others that don't. Right.
And the bottom line is, Toni, and most people don't realize this either, that the temperatures are increasing every year.
Climate change,
And the climate change, global warming, which, there's people on each side of the fence. Some people say it's a scam. That's fine. But I'm experiencing global warming every day when I go outside. I don't know about you.
When it's super hot, when we got crazy floods like the other day in Texas, when we got these fires that, people keep saying, it was Santa Ana winds. No, this in January were not Santa Anas. No. This was a different wind event that is climate driven and wiped out a whole town here, wiped out Palisades, all of that. And so, yes, if it's something that we can do to help mitigate or help our environment, because for so long we've damaged our environment. And, then people will say, well, solar panels don't help because they're lithium batteries and da-da-da-da. Well, this is true to an extent. But I know I have a cousin that's been working with some people and they had something I wasn't able to make it last week, but they have these, and since you're an energy specialist, probably these windows that are solar windows that will hook up to inverters and all of that and a battery, but the window panes now can act as your solar panels instead of having the rooftop solar.
Right. Yeah. There's all kind of innovative technology, but the bottom line is we do need to understand we're in an issue. We've done too much with fossil fuel, and there's predictions and analysis that you can look at, but they said in the next 15, 20 years, the weather is going to be intolerable for young babies and elderly people. So you can think about solar as cost savings, but you could also think about it as an accessible way to do your part as an individual for your community, for that neighborhood. You also help to drive the cost down of delivery charges, because instead of the utility company, going all the way to Vegas or Oregon, they're going to get it from Miss Toni and see what she deposited into the grid today. And that's going to cut down that cost for those that don't have solar. So it is.
That's so important, because you just said they can see. I can see my own every day. I literally have this app called Solar
Obsessed.
Every day. I can pull up my Solar Edge and my Edison, but if I go to Solar Edge, where's my Solar Edge? Here it
You
is.
look at your production and
I
your
can look
usage.
and see literally by the week, by the month, or daily how many kilowatts. Like, okay, I don't know, y'all probably can't see this because I don't have my green screen. Wait, if I turn my phone, I think I need to go get my green screen. Anyway, it literally has on 7.2, I did 32.9 kilowatts, 7.3, 32.1, 7.4, 32.1, 32.5 on the 5th, 32.7 on the 6th, and 32.3 yesterday. Right now, I'm at 2.96 kilowatts. And the sun is still coming up. It's not right above where my panels are. And the hotter it is and the brighter it is, the more. But I can see that for this week. I can switch it to the month. I can switch it to the year. And so I can say, okay, this is how much production I have. This month, I've generated 231 kilowatts and 4.15 megawatts.
That's amazing. See, that's the new flex, Toni. When no, for real, you got an electric car. You're powering your home with the sun. I mean, God gave it to us. We're being creative.
For free, right.
For free. And then you're able to look at and control your production. And I'm sure it's helped you cut back some of your usage, because when you start seeing like, wait, what's using this many kilowatts right now? What's going on? That actually helps curb, energy wasting behaviors. I have clients that oh my gosh, I even caught them on camera. You can see it on my Instagram. They study that app every hour.
I watch it every day. I look at it every day.
That has an HOA, and they all thought they couldn't go solar. But like I said, I'm an advocate. So I advocated for 4 of the clients now, and they all have solar. Awesome. They come out in the middle of the street, and they're like, show me your app. How many kilowatts did you produce today?
And you know what? My panels right now are dirty. I can tell because where I'm at. Because I've generated much higher. Right. Yeah. I've generated way more than 32 when they're clean. And you can either get somebody to come out and pay, but I have tall ladders. I will get the tall ladders. I put the sprayer. You know that, like how you can get that Windex for your windows or whatever, the outdoor. I attach that to the hose, get on the ladder, and I spray them jokers down. And then I clean them with the clear water afterwards, and then the sun evaporates it. But when I do that, and I try to do it every 3 or so months, I get much higher production because they get dusty and dirty, right? And so it's super important to like keep your stuff clean. But yes, I never thought of that as a flex, but thank you. But it's important because I get to see, and it's like, okay, And then I look at Edison, knowing what I've generated, and I see that they've only given me credit for 25%. That's why I need some more panels. But I'm just like, they're ripping us off.
We need to cut Edison off and give you what I call energy freedom, which is when you're powering your home completely with your system, meaning you still are connected to the grid because that's local law. Edison doesn't let you connect.
Right.
But where you have enough panels and enough storage to actually take care of your usage for 24 hours. And then you start it back over the next day. That's when you're going to be like, you know what?
That's the flex.
Yeah, that's the real flex.
And that's what I'm going to be working with you on. That's the flex. That's what I'm going to be working with you on later than this year, because I really do need the panels, the additional panels, but I want the batteries as well, because I work from home and I've got these monitors and I do not want them charging me ridiculous rates. So if I can power it myself, and I have a spa out back, right? So when I want to go and sit in my spa at night or whatever, but it is constantly pulling, right? Because the water, it turns on once an hour and does the bubbles to generate and keep it clean and all of that. So, I need to have the real flex with the extra panels and the batteries so that I'm off grid. Technically, I'm still connected to them, but I am generating and running my house myself. And that's what I think is beneficial, Jojo, for people to learn from you, and especially in these rebuilds, because Edison is going to recoup that money. Whether it's if this is 25 and that was from 17, that's 8 years ago. They still next year are going to raise rates again because they do it all the time.
They have to go through a process, and that's what takes so long. So anytime a California utility company, there's 4 major ones. There's 2 government, DWP and Glendale Water and Power are not included in this statement, but they have to go through the California Public Utilities Commission.
Yep.
You have to apply for it. They put it in your statement. So the biggest thing I have to tell people is check the pages in the back of your monthly statement. Do not ever skip that, because they slip inserts in there. Matter of fact, in April, we had 4 pending rate increases.
Yep.
And over the next 2 to 3 years, they are wanting to increase the rates a matter of millions of dollars spread over, which it equates to maybe, $5-10 per client per month, for that particular. But that's when you add that up and think about how many people are on the Edison Power, that's millions of dollars. And so if you're sick and tired of that, if you want more control, you do have the right to take that control as a homeowner. Thank goodness we're in California. They recently passed a law that does cut the tax credit as far as the investment tax credit, the ITC. It stops at the end of 2025. However, California has still very accommodating legislation that there's still grants. Like for your battery, I'm going to look at a grant to see what we can, get you back. Yes, ma'am. And that's one of the things that I do. So I do help people cut costs and review their energy efficiency, but I also am a grant specialist and all the programs that we can use and apply that are going to help it be more affordable. And then even make it more accessible for some that may not think that they can afford it. That's one of the things that I hear often is, Jojo, I can't afford solar. You actually can't afford to stay on the grid is the reality.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what I did, because we're talking, and I'm just gonna take this liberty because I can, because it's the Toni Talk Show. I just pulled up my bill.
Okay.
And I was wrong. It wasn't 199. It's 166. So that's even happier.
Better. Yes.
And so I'm going to show it because I want people to see, because I go through it and I know, but I want people to see exactly what we're talking about when we say, look at stuff on these pages. Know what you're looking at, because if you do not, they will get you. Right? Yeah. Or you just won't know. So I'm going to do a present real quick. Let's see. Share screen. 2 monitors. Yeah, I got 2 monitors. I just got to make sure which one I am sharing. There it is. Okay, it's going to come up in a minute.
So someone on, I think it's YouTube, asked what stage of the rebuild process is solar brought up. So we did really dig into that legislation, which we'll talk about how the governor kind of released some of the requirements that were mandated in Title 24. But typically in the planning stage, when they're coming up with the building plans, there's actually solar plans that are presented, which I work with installers that will create those plans. But we'll come back to that. We'll review her bill, and then you can talk about the new legislation, and then we'll answer that question. So tight.
So if you see up here, like I had 2 that, I don't know, I paid back to back. Maybe I was a little late because I always forget. I used to pay in advance for the whole year, and I think something happened last year. Anyway, so, but this bill just came out. It's $166.45, right? So here's where a lot of people don't look. There are summer cost periods, which go June 1 through September 30th.
Right.
And it talks about on-peak, mid-peak, and off-peak. And a lot of people just don't know, right, what these are. On-peak, always weekdays is 4 to 9. And on weekends, it's mid-peak, but it's also 4 to 9.
Right.
And then the winter cost, which just finished May 31st, are October 1st through May 31st. And so if we go down, Lord, I can't be showing folks my address. No.
Right.
I had to scroll quickly past that. Let's see. Okay. So I had 47 kilowatts. Mind you, I know how much I bring in. This is the part where Edison I call it thievery, right? Mm-hmm. But if people don't understand their bill, this says energy charges, $194.87. And then other charges or credits are $28.42. And so it totaled the $166. But here it is. Off peak was $109.35. Average cost was 25 cents a kilowatt, right? Mm-hmm. The mid peak, on peak was very low for me, which is great, right? Over here in the black. Mid peak, but off peak is my highest, but it was still the highest charge as well. So people, I would suggest really take a good look at your bill and then find out what plan you're on and then find out how it was used or whatever. And so this is like last year, right? And in 23, 24, and 25. So June of 24 down here, I was much higher than June of 25, right? On consumption, which is the black and the gray, and then the export. June of 24, which was maybe 6 months into my solar, I was much lower than I am this year because my panels are operating efficiently, right? So it says,
and you understand your system too now. So that's the thing, is you do become a little wiser with your usage naturally when you
when you've had it, because it's electricity usage 2 years ago, 23.63 last year, and then this year 20.73. So it reduces because understanding the system better. Export last year, 2 years ago, didn't have it. Last year I exported 19.4. This year 21.1. Now people may not think that that's a big difference, but it is, because it matters in what your bill does. So I'm on the TOUD prime. I'm on time of use prime. Everybody's not going to be on that unless you have an electric vehicle. When you get an EV, they switch you over to TOU prime, which is higher.
Yeah.
If you don't have an EV, it's regular time of use, but there's different tiers. But once you have an EV, you get put on time of use prime, and it is the highest kilowatt charge per, hour or whatever. But if you see, then you look down, and we won't have to go through everything, but basic charges, mid peak, off peak, super peak, or whatever, right? So they charge for all these little, you'd be like, wait a minute, come on now. I use 93.
This is where they lose people, because people look at that, they feel overwhelmed, and they say whatever, and they just walk away. So when I meet with a homeowner or a business owner, we go through their bill together. So that first of all, I can make sure they understand what they're paying now, because most people they don't get it.
But this is that part you were talking about, the delivery charges of it.
Yeah.
And then we'll see the other in a minute. And it's like, why do they have to break it down? But you said it goes to your outside line, but then to distribute it, right? There's delivery charges and there's distribution charges. So if you don't really look at your bill and understand it, that would be a good time even to call Jojo or get in touch with her so she can help you understand it. I look at this every month because I want to make sure that my stuff is right. So, and then I've got down here, summer, energy summer, because it's broken down again by all of them. Here's our wildfire surcharge, which is $3.70, not bad. I do have a smart energy program credit of $3.93 because about 2 years ago, I switched out my thermostat and bought a smart thermostat, which is also on my phone as an app. So I can turn it on and off.
Wherever you're at.
And if you're on the program, they adjust it.
Yes.
Now there are times that they adjust it and I'm like, nope, it's too cold. And I make it a little warmer in my house, or vice versa, right? But for the most part, I stay in the range that you should. And then my house is also on I do not have a solid slab. I have a crawl space. So my house never really gets hot unless it's very close to 100.
That is so good.
Yeah. And then even in the winter, girl, I'll be cold. So I have the heat up a lot. But in the summer, like I have my front door open right now because I like that morning air to come in. But everything else is closed off because I want it to stay cool. And my house stays cool because I'm on I have crawl space underneath. But then here's what you were talking about.
Yes. So look to the right and look at your distribution charges, which, like I said, they're usually anywhere from 30 to 50% of your bill. Look at that. You paid $160, but you still had 101 in distribution charges, which again, it just means we need to upsize your system and then save some of that energy in those batteries and then call it a day. And that'll knock almost all of those fees off. Some you'll still have. There's still going to be a connection fee, which is $15. But the goal, really, my goal when I sit with a family or a business is to make the system have enough offset or extra power that it knocks all those fees out and that you have kind of like a cushion on your Edison account, a little surplus. Not too much though, because you're losing 75%, but just enough to handle those connection fees and all those little silly franchise fees and, just all those fees that they try to justify in your statement. So I try to
So why
sever
am I
that.
charged $6.10 for a new system generation charge? Because I've had it almost 2 years.
Yeah, no, so this isn't for your solar system. As a matter of fact, a lot of people tell me, oh, I don't like solar, I don't want it. And I look at their statement, I tell them, you have solar. You're paying for maintenance of Edison's solar farms. And that's your statement. Yes, yeah. So I mean, like I said, they pass the charges on to the consumer completely. Edison is a business. They're not a government entity. They got to stay lucrative and keep their investors happy. And this is how they do it. But like I said, my goal is to go ahead and sever that relationship. And yes, you'll still be connected, but I don't like for Edison to get any money from my families or businesses. I like to
well, you and I definitely need to talk so we can get it to the point where all those extra fees are off, and I'm at maybe $60 or $66 a month instead of the $100. But this is what, based on my generation, I exported. Now, granted, this is only 25% credit.
Yeah.
But it's still $45 is what they gave me credit for.
Yeah.
After all that, that I 231 this month alone kilowatts, they are, well, actually here it's 633.
Yeah.
For last month.
And keep in mind, you used whatever you didn't give them. So this is your extra. So that's where batteries come in, is they keep that extra, meaning it's like a cup.
Exactly.
So it's that extra energy. And once your battery's topped off, then the rest will overflow back to the grid and show up on your statement. But during peak times, 4 to 9, you'll be on your battery rate, which will be whatever you paid for it. And then if you have a big enough battery and enough storage, you can go ahead and support your home throughout the night. And then when the sun comes back up, the panels kick in. And it's just a beautiful situation. So,
right, because I'm just getting more energy into the battery to replenish it so that peak time, 4 o'clock, I go off of it again. Yeah, you and I definitely will be talking soon and flexing. That's right. That's the real flex, not being able to pay these bills for Edison. And especially if they just got approval to recoup from 2017 payout for a fire, I'm going to see more on my bill.
They're going to keep coming, yeah.
Yeah, so again, for people that need to rebuild, if you have it in your policy, add it, because Kendra, and if you're going with Kendra Mays, this JoJo is the person that will be doing your power. If you're not going with Kendra and you're going with someone else and you still want the real deal, consult with JoJo even before your person goes to somebody else. Or if you think you are being charged astronomical rate for your solar, right? Which is through whom your builder is going to be, say, you know what, I want to talk to this person and find out what's what. And if you have a better rate than what the builder who they would go with, they can say to their builder, because it's your money as someone is going to rebuild, say, you know what, I've had a second consultation and I want to use this person for my solar. Still, the plans can be the same if the plans are already approved or whatever, but I don't want to go with your solar person because they're going to charge me double what JoJo would charge, right? Or whatever. So I think that it's important that people know how to get in contact with you so that they can have a consultation, because I have your number in my phone now, got it last week, and I'm going to just call you myself. But for everybody on here, what's the best way? Is there a number, an email, or, I know that you said connect with you at Jojo or at somewhere. Yeah. So we'll get that information.
I'm everywhere, whatever is most convenient for you. You can get my number, which I'll give to you right now. It's 661-247-7886. You can follow me on Instagram at Solar with JoJo. And the thing about my Instagram and how I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions in solar is there's educational stuff on there. So some of the things that we were talking about, I touch on my page. I have more coming out now with the new legislation that's passing. So, there I am right there. I'm also on Facebook under JoAnn Harris, and then I do have a business page under Solar with JoJo. And my email address, just so you can remember, super easy. Hold on.
Okay, I think Brian's ready. Go on.
Okay, is solarwithjojo@gmail.com. Super simple. But the bottom line is you need to, number one, get the basic foundation of understanding with solar. What's the goal? And then you need to, if you are shopping around for solar, it is recommended that you get a few quotes so you can see, number one, if they're overselling you, meaning they're trying to charge you too much. Also, one of the things that I run into and why I call myself an advocate is 9 out of 10 times I see, especially if the solar company does not have a heart for the community, they're just trying to sell you, and they may not sell you something that covers all of your energy needs. You definitely want to have a system that covers your usage and stores some energy for just in case the power goes out. And you want to try to sever that connection with the utility company as much as you can. Solar does it a lot cheaper. Cash is the best way to go, but if you aren't rebuilding and you're just thinking about solar because you're kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, then definitely reach out, and I'll be more than happy to educate you and discuss options with you, do a bill review, which we just basically did what I do in my consultation. We pull up the bill, we look at how they're paying, what they're paying. People's eyes get so big because they came to their bill before that consultation and they were like, this makes no sense. And they threw it to the side and just paid it, but they feel that constant pressure. And then this is that time of year where those peak rates, they went effective July 1st, which, there's something so foul about that because everybody's kids are home right now. And people that can work remote are working remote to support their families and be around their kids. So Edison knows that they're going to be able to cash in on all of that demand. And it's a supply and demand thing. The more demand there is, the more they charge. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is super foul, but that's the bureaucracy. Also, I think that people need to know that they need to lobby or go to their governor and say, look, the people you have on the PUC are not benefiting us. Right? Because the PUC now has made some changes that are not okay. Yeah. And that lays on Governor Newsom because they're not elected officials. The governors appoint their public utility commission people. Yeah. And so we don't vote in our public utility commissioners. They're appointed by the governor. And so if there's ever a thing, that's when, and I'm an advocate big time for politics. Don't wait every 4 years for a presidential election. Go to your city town council, go to your town council if you have one, go to your city council, go to your where you have a mayor, go to those meetings, voice what's important to you, because otherwise they don't know. And the people that are there saying we want this, we want that, that's what's going to become law, right? And so if we want to make change, we have to be civically engaged. We have to get ourselves there and know what's happening. We can't say, oh, the LA County Board of Supervisors did this, this, and this. Did you know it was going on? Did you join their meetings? Did you go to one? Did you join? All of them have meetings that are online. Yeah. There are closed door sessions where they talk about stuff and no public, whether it's in person or online, will do it. But we're in the digital age where they have these meetings online. And so join them, get involved, find out what's what. Because if you don't, then once it's there, all you can do is complain. Yeah. Which you can't fight for it then. You fight against it. Yeah, exactly. So we did a whole thing last week, I think it was, or a week and a half ago on bills and the old conjunction junction, what's your function? And Hill on Capitol Hill and how it goes through committee, just to remind people. Yeah. Because it's so important that people are civically engaged and know what the processes are to make the changes that we need. Otherwise, someone else is making them for you. Yeah.
And I think it's especially important in times like this where, Altadena is rebuilding. There's a lot of changes that are pending that are actually going to directly impact these community members. And so it is important, number one, to be aware, but get involved. If there's, a way for you to voice your opinion or call your representative, then do it because that's your right. And again, like you said, not getting involved or doing that. I mean, at the end of the day, all you can do is complain. But it'd be better to at least try to impact change, because you never know what could result from that or who else you could influence.
Look, Brad and Jamal be in the background bringing up stuff that will have us cracking up.
And
I love it. Little girl with the flex and that message, and it is. But that's what we do here. We try to talk to people. We try to bring the right people on that we have vetted, that we know are not going to bring harm to our community, but good, and not our advocates like you, Jojo. And they're going to say, hey, this can benefit you, even if you got to put out $30,000 up front, right? For a battery and a system. But if your bills don't have those delivery fees, or like you said, you're connected to the grid because by law we have to be, but you're really not connected. You're powering your own.
Yeah, you've chosen another. Matter of fact, you've chosen to become your own power company.
That's right. That's right.
That's beautiful. So it's important to look at it that way and keep that in mind. Now, we didn't touch on the fact that Gavin Newsom did update the building codes. He came. Remember, you were saying you were going to get into that. I think it's important.
Yeah. Brian has a link that I posted. So what our governor did yesterday was signed a new executive order, and that executive order is a streamlined blueprint. Thank you, Brian. But it allows, again, solar, if you don't want to get solar during your rebuild, and these are for the areas that were impacted by the fires, not other new builds or whatever, just specifically for that. But you don't have to. Again, we just had a major discussion where I even brought up my own personal bill. Y'all get you some solar and batteries because the increased rates are coming, because that fire from 2017, then the Bobcat fire in 19, Woolsey fire, it's coming, and they're going to keep hitting us with rates. Palisades and Altadena. Palisades, I think, is DWP because they're part of LA, but we're Edison. Edison's going to keep hiking our rates. So if you can afford to, and even JoAnn, you didn't talk about this, but do you partner with somebody that potentially could do their financing if they don't if they don't want to lease them, but they want to technically get cash and finance on their own, or people can do a HELOC and pay for. That's a home equity. You got equity in your house.
Which route is going to save them the most? ROI is a factor here. How long is it going to take to recoup your investment? What is your return for investment time frame? So those are some of the things that we review when I do an analysis. And I have multiple lenders. And I do want to clarify that I support commercial and residential clients, but I'm more so like a broker. So not only do I have multiple lenders and multiple financial programs and options, but I work with multiple installers. Like for Kendra, I'm working with just 2 installers because they're quick. They can work alongside her builders, which is really important. When you go to those big, giant, huge companies, they don't care about your timeline. They have their own project timeline that they're following and guidelines. So every scenario is different. So I do recommend that people reach out, even if you just have 2 questions, get those questions answered. It's so important to be informed instead of assuming. And then if you go try to do the research on your own, you are going to find a lot of information, but you're also going to find some rabbit holes. You're going to find some misinformation. So it's just important to go to a specialist that does this for a living. I eat, sleep, and breathe solar. That way I can fully educate you and then provide all the resources that come with working with a consultant. But I have financing partners and all of that.
Okay. And that's so good that you said that, because I know, and you talked about getting several quotes, right? Because I had like 5 quotes, anywhere from 27 to 60,000. And then I started seeing on Facebook this company called Mona Lee. And Mona Lee is like, we cut out the middleman. We just do it direct. So I paid $14,000, but I got 14 panels, no battery. But my installers, so when my panels were dropped off, when my permit was issued and my panels were dropped off, it was like December 28th. It was raining and everything. Or no, they installed on the 28th. So a couple days before, or the day before. But they left the whole bill of sale, the company that brought them. So they're in Anaheim. So I know what panels I have, what inverters I got, what tracks I got. Like I have all the paperwork. And then they said, they'll be there. It's an 8-hour job. Well, my 2, Manny and Jose, came and they were done in 4 hours. And I was outside watching them. And they're hauling these big panels up on these. I was like, oh my God. And when they told me they were done, they were like, we're going to turn you on. I was like, what? It's only 4 hours. They were like, we do this every day. And so I said, well, if this doesn't work and I decide to get more, I can do owner builder permit to add the 4 or the 6, the sketch, pay that to my city, and then I said, I know where to go and get all my stuff because I have, what I have. So I'm gonna go, and it's a warehouse in Anaheim that lets you, whether you're a business or not, you get it at wholesale. And then I said, and I'm gonna call y'all, and they said, yeah, we'll charge you like maybe $500 each. I was like, okay, when I get my 6 panels, y'all are coming back. And then I think Manny said, and if you want a good in-phase battery, I can get you a brand new one for like $5K because they're usually 10 to 12. I was like, Manny, how you getting? He was like, I know you're not asking questions. So we just laughed, but I said, whenever I'm ready, right? But now I know you because I can say to you, okay, you've seen my bill, but going forward when I'm ready, okay, JoAnn, how are we going to do this?
Right.
And you will tell me what's best to fully, because I can say I need 6. You might say, no, you need 10 more panels. Right?
Our software does analyze. It analyzes your bill and your usage and all of that. It also factors in degradation. We didn't talk about that. Panels are technology. They are just like a television. They're just like a car. You put miles on a car. Panels do only last so long, and every year there's a slight bit of loss of production. You can say it's not much, but that's something that we factor into the calculation of how much you would need. So
okay. And then what about even that? What if somebody has had them 10 years and they have more loss than they thought, and they don't want to get rid of them, but they look at which panels are producing? Because also on my app, I can look at the panels and it'll tell me by the hour, number 2 is not doing well. Number 8 is doing crazy well, right? I can look at each 14 and see which panel. So what if I say, JoAnn, I have these panels that are not performing well. There's lots of degradation on them and all of this, right? I just want to I want to replace 2 panels because again, I own my system. I'm not leasing it, and I say I want to replace them. Could you do just replacement panels too if it's not a whole system?
But this is the thing that we're going to do. We're going to look at your paperwork because panels have a 25-year manufacturer warranty, and that's standard. That's across the board. And so if those panels are, they're degrading or the production is slipping more than it was anticipated, then they may be malfunctioning, and we need to go ahead and go to that manufacturer and actually have them come out and do an on-site review of them. And if they find that there's something wrong with those panels and it's within the warranty time, they replace it. You may have to orchestrate the contractor that helps you, but it's going to be covered for replacement because it actually has a manufacturer warranty. So.
Okay, that's right. I forgot about that because even though I did say they have a 25-year warranty. But what about the ones that have gone out of business? How do you, if you're still under
manufacturers now? I mean, there are some pretty old panels out there in the world. I've met a few, and I had never heard of the brand, so those ones are a little different. I would recommend replacement of those. But if you're rocking with a system that's been up for 5-10 years, those manufacturers are still open. The installers themselves may not be open. And so this is another thing that I actually do help with. That's called a solar breakdown. Your installer's out of business. Your equipment is malfunctioning, you don't know who to call. Essentially, it would be the manufacturer that would replace them, but navigating through that communication pipeline and getting the help you need might be a little bit daunting for someone that does not do that for a living. So give me a call. I help with solar breakdowns too. Because that's where I find that people give up. They're like, I went solar, I tried, now it's not working. What the heck do I do? My installer went out of business. You call a specialist. A specialist can actually help you get through that web of steps and connect you with the right person, the right company, and they can even get on the phone and advocate. Don't play with me if they need to, because the bottom line is where you have rights. You signed and agreed to certain rights. Those rights didn't go away just because the company that put the panels on your roof is gone. The manufacturer still held accountable to honor that warranty. So that would be yet another opportunity for Solar with JoJo to assist you, educate you, and help you get a solution.
Like you said, don't play with me. Jamal Bryan, I'm surprised you didn't put a snapping "don't play with me" meme up yet, because baby, she is the advocate that is not gonna play with nobody. I love that, JoJo. I really do. That let's see. Oh, so Stogie Man said, will you have any group presentations to discuss all that you've discussed?
You know what? It depends on if that's needed. So, like I said, I work with churches, schools, and businesses. So if you have even just 2 or 3 people that want to just hop on a Zoom and have a general discussion and a question and answer session, or if you have a whole community, whatever it may be, just reach out to me and yeah, let's get it going. That's one of the things I'm here for. I want to back up because when I first saw what was happening with solar, I fell in love with the fact that you could actually cut costs in an area that people didn't realize they could save money. People feel that they're forced to pay the electricity company. They don't realize that they can actually shop around and find another power company, or they can be their own power company. But the other thing that I saw was just the lack of knowledge regarding basic solar understanding. And I see how sometimes you may go to someone to get a quote and they're not necessarily an educator. They may not have patience. And so you leave the session with a ton of unanswered questions and really an uneasy feeling. Well, my background is actually over 25 years of customer service for a mortgage bank, meaning I have seen what homeowners deal with, the things that stress them out. I've seen horrible situations we supported during 2 or 3 disasters. Hurricane Katrina was one of them. And so I've been on the front lines where I've seen real life issues that impact families and, that cause them to struggle. And so that's one of the things that I definitely broadcast. And I tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your community, tell your church, tell your school. If there's people that need information on solar and an education, then reach out to me. I will absolutely do a workshop, because knowing ends up saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you could think about it, as many people that are in Altadena that rebuild before they had, their house that was on regular electricity, so they were just wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if everybody moves over to the green side, all of that extra capital that is now in the residents' pockets is going to go towards the small businesses in the community. It's going to help them support the church in the community. It's going to help them take care of their family better. So it's so much bigger than just saving money. The more money you save, the better your lifestyle can be. And I am going to create a movement if it's the last thing that I do. And so I'm just helping one family and one business at a time by educating them and putting them in a better position.
Well, let's create it together. And you know what I'll do? I'm going out of town tomorrow. I'll be back in a couple of weeks, but maybe in August, I can create or have something. We can get a space and have something for this. Like Stogie said, will we have any group presentations or whatever? We did a builders town hall, and I think I was mentioning that to you Saturday back in March.
Okay.
And then I did a follow-up one a few weeks later on a Zoom. But I think that people overall, maybe we need to present this. I might even talk to Kendra. Maybe we could have it at the warehouse if she doesn't have a bunch of materials there already. But something that we can do it there, not only for all the clients that she has, but open it up to people.
Yeah.
And whether they are rebuilding or just want information on solar. If need be, I'll bring my bill. I don't care. I just showed it.
I have those examples too.
I know you do too, but yeah. So, but yeah, it definitely is something that maybe we can look at doing in August, early to mid-August. And thank you, Stogie, for that suggestion or that question.
Yeah.
Because it's so needed in the community. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yawn, because I know how yawning can get. I don't even know where that one came from. I slept well last night. But yeah, I think that it would be great for that to happen. We do want to have, as our Altadena Talks Foundation and podcast, we want to have events for the community to provide knowledge, to educate them. So I think that would be a really good one to have next month.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I was telling you pre-show that California is the second highest rate in the nation. And so I know most Californians don't know that, because when I sit down and I let them know, they're like, really? Hawaii beats us. But that's a resort area. You expect it to be premium prices. But as far as California, why number 2? So this just gives us
more California.
Well, because there's a lot of demand and not enough supply. It's the bottom line.
Well, that was that. Not playing.
Not playing. I'm going to make sure that everybody at least knows, and please forgive me for this comparison, but in my opinion, it's like spreading the gospel, but it's solar information and it's helping people cut costs, and it's changing lives one family at a time. I'm going to give you an example. I have a client of mine he's been a poster example for a long time, because he said, Jojo, I want as much power as I'm allowed to have. I said, okay.
Right.
So, yeah. We did him at 100%, 150% offset, which means that he is producing 50% more than he used in the historical data that I looked at. And so his first bill, which was in January of 2025, was negative $545, which his December bill was $475 or something like that. You can actually see it on my page. Don't hold me to the exact numbers, but it was very close. But what that did is that gave him a huge bank at Edison. So each month as he moves to days that maybe he consumes more power, first of all, he is kilowatt obsessed. And he is that one that I said comes out in the middle of the street with his neighbor.
Maybe I watch it.
Solar for me, and it's like, let me see your kilowatts today. And they show it off, and they're teaching each other. They have 2 different types of batteries. So they're teaching each other about the 2 different types of batteries. But his life has gotten better. You know, before he was saying, and he's in a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom condo in a little high fire zone. So his insurance has gone up, his HOA fees have gone up, his utility bill during the summer, and I want to say his house is maybe 1,300 square feet, was up to $900 for 1 month.
So last year, August, September, my back-to-backs, not last year, maybe the summer before, hot as all get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and it might have been last year, I'd have to look, but I had one at 600 and one at 800. And I was mad. I think that was right before I got my solar. I was mad as hell. Yeah, it was right before. That was in 23. I was like, come on. And it was hot. So we used the air.
Why and how? But again, you only get about 60% of the power that you're charged for. So you're losing it through the power lines, especially on hot days. So they don't tell you all that. And then number 2, yeah, of course, when you get home from 4 to 9, you're going to make sure your air is comfortable. You're going to be watching TV. You're going to be cooking. If you have children, they're going to be doing what they do. This particular client, he is home-based with his business, and so is his wife. So they were paying a pretty premium for choosing Edison as their power company, but now they have a fixed payment and they have a continuously growing energy bank on their statement with Edison. They've severed that relationship. They just check their statement just to make sure everything is still working good, but they already know that because they're in their app every single day. The wife has an app on her phone, and then they have 2 Teslas, and they were still able to accomplish this. So
that's incredible. And that's the power of knowledge, right? And saying to you, JoAnn, here's my bill, this is what I'm looking at, yada yada yada, and you saying, okay, let me analyze this, and this is where you could get now part of the reason, because a lot of people don't know this, that Edison switched it in California, because it came down from the California Public Utilities Commission. So whether you have Edison, whether you have People's Power Company, because there's a lot of other providers you could use, whether you have PG&E, whoever, it came through April of 23 is when it changed from 100% to 25%, the credit. Because what happened before was you would get a true-up bill. A true-up bill is once a year. You get a bill from the power company that says on the anniversary of when you got solar, okay, this is what you consumed. This is what you generated. We owe you $1,000 on your true-up bill. I know people now getting true-up bills that were before the April cutover, because I don't get a true-up. I get a bill every month because that's what they changed to. And now they're getting $1,000 bill once a year as a true up, and some people are getting 2,000. So like neighbors that I have, and I'm like, you got to be kidding. They're like, yeah, I was getting it, and then they made the change, and I'm not grandfathered in, and now my true up is $1,000 once a year, and I'm like, that's some baloney. So what they wanted to do, because when they were giving you generate 32 kilowatts a day, they give you 100% of that credit. They were losing too much money because so many people went solar, and they had to start paying people at the end of that year, $1,500 or whatever. So that's why they changed it. And this is now called Net Metering 3.0. And Net Metering 3.0 is the plan I'm under. That's also when they switched and did all the term of use plans from your regular. And if you have, like I said, a EV, your term of use D prime, which is even higher rates. And I work from home too, and I have my one EV, but I only charge my car maybe once a week because I don't go nowhere. And I still have my little gas car that I try to drive more for little quick local trips, right? To keep my mileage down. But the fact is, it's all I say a scam, a game, whatever. And they know, and they look at it. And like you said, if people don't look at your bill every month and see you've got the delivery charge here, you've got the generation charge here, you've got this fixed rate here, you've got this whatever, all you see is that number and pay it, you're not doing yourself any good. Look at your bill. And again, I did it because I used to work for the phone company here when it was Pac Bell, then SBC is back to AT&T. And the amount of calls that we got that came in, I was in orders and customer service, and I was in collections and then yellow pages. And the amount of calls that we would get from customers that was like, what is this fee? Why am I paying this? I didn't order this. And people don't know. And so that trained me to look at every page and every line item on my bill. And I do it on all my bills now because I worked for a company that was scamming people. And, you know, at different point, this fee here, this here, this here. And so now that's just a practice that I've had for 20
Which is
plus
so
years.
good. That is, you need to put that in a class all by itself, because I think we need to, as consumers, we need to do things with our eyes wide open. A lot of times when we feel uneasy or not at peace with something, we just kind of close our eyes and say, oh, I hope this works. But you really can't do that. And you know what? You're not living the best quality life that you could because you're not doing that. You know, looking and exposing those fees, picking up the phone and calling or reaching out to a specialist is going to help you get into a better situation in the long run, because you're getting informed on what the situation is. I call that, and I have a reel on my page called high energy user-itis, but people get stressed out, Toni. They really do. And I with homeowners where tears have come to their eyes like, Joe, we cannot continue to do this. We really don't want solar. We heard it's a scam. But we feel like we have no choice. Can you help us? And yes, I can, because 9 or 10 times out of 10, solar is going to be cheaper than 58 cents per kilowatt. That's what people don't realize, is they are paying so much for 1 unit of energy during the time they would use it most. When you get home after getting up at 4 a.m. and going to work, working really hard for your family, getting home, finally relaxing, you want your air on, you want to watch your shows, put your feet up and drink your beer. Well, guess what? They're charging you premium prices for that experience.
Premium. And the thing about it is, how many people on Sunday go to church, the ones that do, come home and want to watch football?
Right.
And you want to see that Sunday night game. That's during premium time between 4 and 9. How many are watching baseball, basketball, whatever? Those games are during peak time. That 4 to 9 p.m. And in sports, everybody loves. It could be a track meet, it could be hockey, soccer, whatever. But they make these games when people are at home. So Edison, PG&E, all the electric companies are like, oh yeah, that's peak time. When you get off work, because like you said, you're tired, kids are getting home from school, you're getting home from work, you're cooking, you're using energy, you're watching TV, you're using electricity. You know, after that, you might turn your dishwasher on for the night. And they say, do it after 8. Let me tell you something. I don't do nothing no more. Those kind of things between 4 and 9. You know, when they used to say wash and dry before 8 or after 6 p.m.? Baby, I do it during the broad daylight at noon, at 2 p.m. Because now I know from my bill and from knowing about this is peak time, this is off peak, and then the weekends are different times for off peak than the weekday. But I now know because I got the solar, I have the EV, and I understand.
You've been educated on everything now at this point. You could
I'm at 63 cents between 4 and 9 versus 23 cents, right? And so I'm like, I will run my washer and dryer all day long to be done by 4 p.m. Right?
Same.
All
I
day.
used to tell my kids, don't be leaving lights on between 4 and 9. Don't do that.
Use them all day if you want to. But not where we used to say, don't do it until this time or after this time at 6 p.m. or before 8 a.m. No, I say from 9 p.m., 9:01 p.m. to 3:59 p.m. I'm using all the electricity I can because that's off peak.
It up during that time because I know I'm paying a less high rate for that time. What was I going to mention? Super important, and my mind just went blank. So we'll come back to that. But the thing about it is, it feels wrong. Peak times are when everybody. But the thing is, it puts demand on the grid. High demand not only causes fire hazard. Like I said, transformers have bursted and caused some of the fires we've had in California. So when you're choosing to transition to clean energy, not only are you saving yourself money, but you're actually helping your community by mitigating fire risk. A lot of people say, well, what about those batteries, Jojo? They will, they're made with the lithium. Yes, but batteries are made with material that is fire resistant. they're compartmentalized. So if one little area ends up having an issue, it's isolated to that area and it shuts down. So batteries actually go along with LA County Fire Code. They're made within that guideline to prevent fire and to mitigate the risk of that grid being overwhelmed and actually becoming an overall fire risk as well. So it is, along with the fire prevention, it's important.
It is, but I do know several EVs and people's homes who had batteries that burned down. The batteries, I think, burned as well. But they said this fire was so hot. The Altadena, I can't speak on Palisades. I haven't done that much research over there. But they said that this Altadena fire blaze was so hot, like nothing could have survived. But they would go around to cars that were EVs because they had to do the cleanup, but those had to be, and the properties handled differently, right? And so they would spray with the white EV, right, or non-EV, and so they knew, okay, you could take this car. But the ones that were EVs or the houses that had the batteries, and I don't know, I didn't see any drone photos, I didn't look at any that had batteries if they were kind of intact, but I do know they have to handle them differently, like you said, with hazmat or whatever for cleanup.
Has to be safe, because at the end of the day, that the material inside of that battery is toxic.
That lithium
prevent humans from being exposed to that. But
well, I am so thrilled about this discussion. It went so much more than what I thought it was even going to be, because I was like, okay, we're going to talk about solar, but to go as in depth as we did, I'm super pleased with JoJo. And I just met you Saturday, but your knowledge, I know a little bit, but I'm not a specialist. And that's from my experience, right? Because I just got them in December of 23. But what I learned from you today and the knowledge that you have, I will be calling you. We're going to sit down and we're going to really go over these bills. I know you need like 3 months worth or something. So it'll be good to do it in the fall after I've got through the June bill, which you guys saw, which is 166. But that was actually May 14th to June 12th. So we'll do the June, the July, the August, maybe even September, and say, okay, this is peak time of year also, right? The summer months. Hotter, you're going to use more air. But look at what my real charges are. Look at what kilowatts I spent or consumed versus what I generated, and you do your full analysis and say, okay, Toni, this is the plan. You have the 7,500 kilowatt system, but I think you need, 14,000 or 10,000 or whatever, and get you these batteries, 1 or 2 or whatever, right? Depending on the size and all that, so that I could truly switch off and be like, ha, Edison. Right. and when, I rarely use the air, but when I want to turn it on, I want to turn it on, right?
You want to know that rate is affordable, So yes, definitely. Please hit me up. Anybody watching, definitely reach out. Any questions you have, you're not obligated to move forward. I'm not going to apply sales pressure. That's not what I'm about. If you can see, I educate, and people are able to come to a peaceful decision with the information that I provide, but definitely get your questions answered. Don't assume solar's a scam before you get that education. I think that beautiful families thousands of dollars because they heard of a couple horror stories. Horror stories are usually directly related to the consultant you choose. Their presence or lack thereof in the project timeline and beyond is extremely important. So when I support clients, I don't just drop them off at the end of the project and say, okay, you're all grown up in solar now, have a good life. No, you don't lose me that quick. We stay connected. We do a 30-day follow-up. We do a 6-month follow-up. We do a 12-month follow-up. And then I'm also just available for questions and concerns, because that's part of your education when it comes to clean energy.
I've not had a follow-up. So
do your follow-up. That's what that's going to be.
The fact that you were saying you do a follow-up, and I did look at my bill, that $600 bill was August of 23. The $800 bill was September of 23, and it was super hot, and I got my panels December of 23, and it's gone down. But this month, 166 is the most inexpensive bill I've had since I moved in this house 4.5 years ago, and since I've had the solar, which has been 1.5 years. So the fact that I'm doing much better, but I'm still not as efficient as I can be because I do need more. We're going to work on that. And anybody watching, it's not a scam. I just showed y'all my bill for real. And you saw my charges of 166, and we kind of went through them a little, but contact JoJo, see exactly what she can help you with to save. Because yes, even if that means if you're into buying stocks or options or crypto, you can use that money to help build wealth, right? Even if it means you have children and you need to put that away for them, right? You can, instead of buying a pair of Nikes, buy some stock in Nike. Instead of buying the new PS whatever, buy some shares in Sony with the money that you are saving on your solar bill, right? Utilize your savings to either save or to make you more money. Don't feel like, oh, I'm gonna just go and blow it and spend it, right? Because that is part of the wealth and then generational wealth as well. Not only having a home that you can pass down, but how can you utilize savings to do better for yourself, better quality of life for yourself or your family or your generations that you want to leave something to if you do.
So good. And, you know, we'll talk about this further in detail, Toni, but there's also programs that can help you earn money with your battery. So in those high demand times.
Jojo, girl, we're going to be talking as soon as I get back from this trip. I'm calling you like the week I get back, because you're talking about you could give me a battery rebate. I can make money off my battery. Oh, you know what somebody said too? I just found out I put a charger in my garage after I bought my car, right? Girl, I could put a public charger on my lot if I want to, and people in the neighborhood that don't have chargers can come plug in at my charger.
You make money every charge, and that's
every charge.
Yes,
I can have my own community charger right here on my property. Like and I live on a dead end street, which is a private street, and so what's in front of my house, property line to property line to the middle of the street, I own. I could literally have a space, mark it, and put a charger at the front of my property, baby, and be telling people you can come charge right here and make money. But we're going to talk when I get back.
We will. And yes, anybody that has questions, reach out to me. I'm always available. Thank you for this opportunity, Altadena Talks. What an honor to speak to your community. That event last weekend gave me a little snippet of how beautiful your community is and the resilience.
Absolutely.
That was just such a beautiful thing. I mean, I was tearing up telling my following about this event that I went for the grand opening of Kendra, and just how amazing those families were, you and your crew, all of that. So very honored and glad that we met, and we will.
Well, I'm going to bring this crew back in because they may also have some questions based on what was on the discussion. And we don't want to just drop them before they come in. Wait, Jamal was like this, Brian, like, wait, hold up, because we sound like that. Got to wake up.
Y'all was rolling. JoJo, good Lord, you brought the heat today. I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah, we didn't expect that. You was all nice and timid at the event.
Oh yeah,
quiet. Just how you doing and all that. Now she just went raw.
So I do have a quick question though. Being a specialist, are you tied to any one particular solar panel company, or do you
I work with multiple. So, I mean, I'm sure you know the big ones, Sunrun, Freedom Forever. I use them. I also have other businesses. And then I love the mom and pop shops too, because they're very accommodating. Like I said, for new construction and rebuild, they can work alongside the project timeline efficiently. So yeah, I'm connected to all of them. I just don't have a boss. I'm independent. And my goal is to have a consulting agency that supports clients in converting to clean energy, but also troubleshooting and, getting through obstacles, especially when it comes to those installers that have gone out of business. I'm here for all of that. So,
man, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Very awesome.
Your green drink, Toni, made it look see-through when you were drinking it because it's green screen. She's drinking that clear drink
every day.
Her clear probiotics.
Yep, I do. I put my.
You make that yourself?
Huh?
You make that yourself?
Oh yeah, every day.
Okay.
I make it. And this is spinach, water, goji berries, mango, strawberries, and then Amra has a really good colostrum, and I have a peach and a pineapple and unflavored, but the peach and pineapple I put 1 scoop in, and it's super good. But trying to be healthy, and I drink a few of these a day. And then I do ones with berries, with all kind of stuff, but. Yeah, I know. I saw that, Brian. Here, look.
I'll see.
All you see is the tree, the street.
Right. Like she holding up a glass jar and it's looking like it's out the window.
That's funny.
So I think you shared some information that a lot of people obviously were unaware of. I was actually scrolling through your IG page, and I was seeing some of the comments that you were making for the headlines of your post, like "I can't afford it" or "it's a scam," "solar's a scam," and that kind of thing. I think you
Not a scam.
dispelled a lot of those myths just on
Thank
this
you.
conversation.
Yeah.
If you're able to do some presentations in the future, as
Yes,
was one of those
call
questions
me.
before, I think
Mhm.
that'll be really, really good because so many people are affected by this particular, fire. Getting in a group session, I think, is very effective. We have
Yeah.
obviously found that out with the town hall,
Yeah.
and not just the ones we've done, but other things that other people have done as well.
Right.
They're being able to reach more people, with that one message. So I
Yeah.
hope you're able to do that. And if we can pull together something for you, I think that'd be really effective.
Thank you so much. I hope we can, because like I said, knowledge is key. It makes the transition a little easier and less stressful. And then you can sleep at night knowing, I made a good decision for my family today. So
All right.
that's the end goal, is just a good decision, peace from the decision, and then a better way of life from the money that you're not wasting anymore. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to your following. But yeah, spread the word, and any workshops I can do, I'm always down. So just send me the message.
We will definitely do one, and probably in August.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. This was good. This was a really good show. Sometimes, Brian, don't do it. Don't do it.
Really good show. It's really
I said don't do it, and he did it before I could even mute him. But there's some shows we're like, oh, that was a good show. Then there's other shows we're like, this was a really, really good show, JoAnn. I'm so glad that you're here and agreed to come on. I'm sure next Tuesday when Drasana is on, it'll be the same. Yeah. Although she'll be interviewed by Jamal and Brian.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to be like, tell us where the bodies are hidden.
But it'll be great. It'll be fun either way. I'll try to log in if I can. It'll be 8 over there or whatever. But I'm so appreciative of it. And please, whoever's watching, make sure you go to YouTube and share this. Make sure if you're on our Facebook or our IG, you share this. Get in touch with JoJo. Follow her. I just followed you, Solar with JoJo. Email her, solarwithjojo@gmail.com. Call her at 661-247-7886. Get analyzed. Get solar analyzed and see what it is that you can do. Get educated.
Definitely. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, JoJo.
Thank you all. Brian, no questions? No, just Jamal had a couple.
I'm just a comic relief, and therefore,
never mind.
Thank
you, JoJo.
Abreast to these types of scenarios. However, Jamal, who has great real estate information and experience, will be interviewing Drasana next week.
Okay.
I just threw him under the bus. You see how I did that? I just threw him under the bus.
And that one will be good.
Gotta be here.
No, I work for mortgage company. I've been in mortgage, either the company or tech, like fintech version of it, mortgage software for 20 years. So
okay, and see, at that bank. Remember, I was telling you I worked in a mortgage bank. She was right there growing up with me. She's worked for utilities, so she takes all of that and kind of packages up support for her clients, even if they're not necessarily credit or financially ready. She helps them get there with her support and education. So that'll be a good one. I can't wait to see her.
That'll be really cool.
Next Tuesday.
And we look forward to it. And you two together, I saw that you guys work together a lot. That's really
we collaborate
cool.
a lot.
That partnership is key.
Powerful. Yeah, very much so.
Well, we are at 11:29. That was a full hour and a half Power Pack show, which was fabulous. Mm-hmm. And so I always say, toodles. Brian and Jamal.
We say peace.
We'll be back.
I do want to mention, though, thank you all. Sorry for tuning in for episode 125 and an exquisite episode. I would like to say it was
125. Wow. We didn't do announcements. They'll pick them up and do them tomorrow.
Yeah.
I won't be able to log in tomorrow. I'll be in the air by the time the show. I leave at 8:05 in the morning, so I won't be on. But
we're going to go buck wild then. She ain't going to be monitoring. Yeah. Way back Wednesdays, too.
Right. It's gonna be a knucklehead show tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And then
We're gonna
Thursday.
be talking about 80s summer fashions.
Oh my goodness, that's gonna be great.
OP
Not
shorts
just fashion, but
and-
summer fashion, huh?
Yeah, summer
Oh,
fashions. Because you got to remember those little shorts we used to wear that came up above our thighs, dang near. The OP shorts, you remember those?
Mhm.
I remember OPs.
Yeah, I've had the corduroy ones. You couldn't pay me.
Well, that'll be a crazy show tomorrow. Thursday will be a live. I'll be. What do you say when we're out on scene?
On assignment.
On assignment, we will be live in the sky on Thursday from Acropolis, Greece. I'll be at Dinner in the Sky. So
Should be
we'll
The
do
lovely.
dinner
that,
in the sky.
and I'll log in on my cell phone. And then we'll go from there. But everybody, thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Tuesday and a happy and safe week. We'll see y'all probably Thursday. You two on the bottom have an amazing show tomorrow. I already know it's going to be a blast.
Hey, safe travels, Tony.
Go blast. Look at this knucklehead. Bye, y'all.
No clue what you're talking about.
Toodles, everyone.
Peace,
Okay,
everybody.
everyone, turn
Hold
your
on, Jojo.
volume down because
Have
we're
a safe
getting
trip.
loud.
Hold on, JoJo.
Turn
Okay.
your volume down. We're getting loud in here.
Yeah, I'm turning mine down right now with this exit.
All right, y'all. Here we
Everyone.
go.